I'll touch briefly on the 4 nutriments today, the 4 nutriments in Buddhism. That is these 4 things that we ingest. That Buddha taught us that we, as spiritual cultivators, we need to be mindful of. So the first thing is edible foods. What kind of food we eat, they can have an impact on our health. I won't go so much into that, this on nutrition, but I guess we all should know by now the way we consume our food is very important. Are we consuming out of greed or necessity? Are we overeating? Are we emotionally eating? These are things that we want to catch ourselves in. The world, as we know, is suffering a lot right now with climate change and everything. I was having a conversation, I forgot with who. I wonder if it was Ken or it was Serena. Just thinking that if 30 years from now, how would the state of our earth be like if we are just unmindfully consuming? So we can do our part in mindful consumption. Of course, it's okay to sometimes to reward yourself with the food that you enjoy, but we can do so with moderation, right? We don't need to overeat all the time. In fact, certain foods also contain certain energies when we ingest them. Things like pork is known to be one of the lowest vibration foods, and it can make one really sluggish. So these are things that we can be mindful of on food and how we want to consume. And the second nutriment is sensory impressions, sensory inputs. They are observed by the eye, the ear, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind. Now, what do we pay attention to? This is very important because we live in a world that is very digitally connected right now. Everything you need to know is on your phone. You can just show up on your phone immediately. Even if you don't need touch your phone so much, someone close to you might be just touching their phone all the time, and they're just going to feed you all kinds of information, especially with the ongoing pandemic, natural disasters, chaos in the world. Right? There could be a lot of anger out there in the world. So where do we direct our attention to? This is something that we need to safeguard, because whatever we pick up, whatever we incline towards seeing or hearing, that will shape our personalities. That will shape the way we think. So if you look, let's say, someone who likes to find fault with others, like to find problems, right? That person would always be looking at problems, trying to fault with the world. And how does that affect one's mind? Just by doing that. Therefore, setting up one's own environment is very important. The physical space, your social circles, what kind of conversations you have with people, who do you follow on social media, and what kind of data are you allowing to come in. There's actually a lot of things that we can do to safeguard our senses, because that's what keeps you sane. Sometimes we could be drained and then we go like, oh, you know what? I want a digital detox. But what is the digital detox? Is it really just about the radiation from the phone? Or is it because of all the unnecessary data coming in to that little screen that is being picked through our eyes and being absorbed into our consciousness? Some things can stir the mind. It can create anxiety, like certain news that we are exposed to. So we want to be mindful of that. And also, if you need to read the news for work, that's okay, right? You have no choice, right? That's your job. But the mind, what kind of objects does the mind want to cling onto? This is how you can safeguard yourself. In Thailand, there's this saying that wherever the mind goes, the body must follow suit, vice versa. So let's say in your meditation and spiritual practice, you have developed a kind of understanding. You've seen your improvement, your progress. So it is only normal for the body to learn how to follow suit. And the body, which are the senses that we are using to navigate the world. So we want to try to align them with the insights that we've developed, or the books that we've read. Some inspirational or books on wisdom that you're inspired about. So to be inspired, it also means to motivate one to apply what you've learned, test it out, so that the body and mind is aligned to go together. And then, of course, comes spirit. But first, body and mind is to come together. So the second nutriment on sensory input is of utmost importance. And that's why on silent retreats, you can't listen to music, you can't talk. That's to safeguard yourself. And it's also to give you, this kind of retreat is also give you an experience of how it's like to just cut away from unnecessary distractions, to let you realize what you've been missing out. So we can actually replicate that so-called retreat environment for ourselves, because there's a lot of things that are unnecessary. The third nutriment would be, anyone knows? What's the third? Okay, so the third is volition. Like your mental activities. Volition, not in the English language sense, but anyway, volition activities that goes on in the mind, right? So volition is also known as our sankharas, or the mental formations. But under the four nutriments, this sankhara is translated as volition, because every volitional action that we undertake, it causes karma. It creates karma. It is like an urge of a force, right? Because volition is that it has an intention of where you want to direct your mind to, what you want to do, the sankharas that you want to write on. So take, for example, desire. We've heard a lot about desires. The reduction of senseless desires can bring you more peace of mind. So we want to be mindful of what kind of volitions we want to have. Are you going to adopt a meaningful volition? Let's say you think that, you want to change yourself. You want to practice. You want to be more mindful. You want to be more compassionate, so that you could offer your presence and compassion to others, to guide others along the way. That is a good volition to have. And you want to repeat that cycle, repeat that process, keep repeating it. Because karma, there's good and there's bad. Right? So these things are operating on the conscious level. Right? That's whether you want to be compassionate, or you want to be angry, or you want to be fault-finding. They're all on the conscious level, right? I think we can agree that there is a control. Am I right to say that you want to be easily frustrated and easily annoyed by people? There is, I believe, if you're still easily annoyed by people, then I don't know what to say, because we've been practicing, everyone here, for quite a long time now, right? But how about desires that are deeply rooted? The unconscious desires. When you see someone behaving in a certain way, someone that you do not know, are you neutral to that person's behavior? That the person just doesn't get absorbed into your consciousness? Or perhaps you notice someone with a weird behavior, but you develop a kind of loving kindness and compassion. They just go, this person, it's just this person. Well, may this person be well. May this person be cared for. May this person be happy. Do you just naturally wish well? Or do you go judging that person? Why is this person acting like this? Why is this person acting like that? Why this? Why that? Why is it not going according to my views? This kind of volition, they are operating in a very deep subconscious or unconscious level. It just comes up without you being able to catch it. And it is like a desire. The desire to care for someone, to embrace someone, the desire to reflect on the Dharma, the desire to just pinpoint, find fault, the desire to have an internal conflict and internal debate, because my view is better than your view. My view of the world should be like this. My view of the way you work, the way you act should be like that. Otherwise, I can't justify your behavior. And then I decide to gossip about you. So these are volitions, and they are very hard to catch. especially when the mind comes in to judge. Why is it important to look out for what goes on in your mind? Why is volition so important? Because it affects immediately, it affects your mental state, your state of mind in that moment immediately. For example, someone curses at you. You didn't do anything wrong, and that person decides to just be ungrateful towards you. How does that make you feel? The person could just say something that lasts like 3 seconds or so. But how long do you allow that to continue looping in your head? We say they are loops because they are a cycle. And we decide to paddle them on. Right? Or I'm hurt, you hurt me, you're not grateful, and this and that, that kind, how then we were living in our heads most of the time, right? Or do you go like, oh, this person, never mind, the world is just like this, there's good days, there's bad days, today just a slightly bad day, I can let it go, I'm happy, let me move on with my life, may that person be well and happy. So much things can happen on the mind level. Or the volition that says, oh, I know I have enough. I'm grateful for my practice today. I'm grateful for the things that I have. I'm grateful for my food. Very naturally, I'm happy. I feel that I want to give back to the world. Or, oh, I'm not satisfied. I don't think this is good enough. I think I need to work on myself. I think I need to improve. Why is my meditation not kicking off? Although I have some jhanic bliss, but it's not enough. What's the next step? What's this? What's that? I start to judge myself, you see? Therefore, it is very simple. You all have the practice already. Just catch the mind when it's suffering. And what is suffering? It means there's no peace of mind at that moment. That's it. We don't have to go and loop back and try to imagine what could have happened to make ourselves feel better. We have to drop the past, drop the future, and just come back to the present moment. That's how we practice. Which brings us to a fourth nutriment, consciousness. In Buddhist psychology, we don't believe in personality. We see every different state of mind, every emotion as an energy. They are seeds planted in the consciousness. And they can arise. Seeds of mindfulness, seeds of ignorance. It's the mind being afflicted by the three mental poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. Because these three make someone suffer. Or is it acting out of mindfulness and wisdom, compassion? Is it acting out of renunciation? Renunciation doesn't mean you throw everything, all your material possessions away. The greatest renunciation is to renounce your wrong desires, renounce your anger, renounce your attachment to the events that happened that caused you suffering. And that's where we can gain peace. You see, when you go back to sensory inputs, the second nutriment, and the volitions that we write on, all these should feedbacks directly to the consciousness. And what state of consciousness you're in depends a lot on the second and the third nutriment. What are you ingesting? What kind of data are you allowing to come in? And what kind of data are you using? Sensory input you see as things coming out from outside of you, entering you. Volition is very mind-based. And these sankharas, these volitions, they're also seen as mental activities, mental object, which means that there is a mind observing them. There is a mind that is attaching to them. There is also the mind that is letting go of them. And in meditation, we're practicing to recognize what is the true pure mind and what is the ego. So whether we experience peace, meaning, or bliss depends on how we have been ingesting these four nutriments. So how is your consciousness like on a day-to-day basis? And don't look at it in meditation. Look at it in day-to-day basis. How is it like? Some people will just say, no, I just feel sleepy. I just feel tired all the time. But trace back what is causing that. Oh, the consciousness is weak if it's always sleepy and tired. It's the food. Are you eating well? Are you exercising well? Right? That's number one. I think that with the consciousness is weak, or what sensory data are you putting in? What volitions have you been acting on? Right? We think 75,000 thoughts a day, so probably we had 75,000. We make 75,000 karma a day. And they, and laying them in your seeds of consciousness, these karmic seeds will ripen in due time. They can just spur up themselves. But what does it mean when they spur up themselves? It means that it's not watered. You don't need any sensory data outside to just to water them, for them to come up. It just so happen on its own, which is the time when you wake up. How do you wake up to face the world? How do you wake up to see the world? Now, how do you feel at that moment? So, sharing on these four nutriments, I find that it's timely to share with all of you, so that this is how you can practice in your day-to-day life, and especially now when the world is just pretty crazy, right? Or it might just get crazier. We don't know. But the thing is that all of you can be seen. All of you can have joy. All of you can have happiness and meaning. Because you already have had quite a long period of practice, which is actually very long. Everyone here. So in meditation, one can reflect on one's day, or one's week, or one's month. Just reflecting on what's there. And how you can use loving kindness and compassion to bring inwards to yourself. It's not that you use compassion, means to approach yourself with compassion. You're not there to kill anything. You're there to embrace. It's not to say that you notice something that you don't like within yourself and you try to use compassion to cut it off. Or you don't like something in your life that happens outside of you. You use compassion to validate yourself. There is a fine line between being self-compassionate and overly identifying with suffering. When we over-identify, we can self-victimize. And sometimes we can even go into judgment, anger, frustration. Right? So these are the energies that we want, the focus we want to bring into meditation. Right? So there's this mudra that you use to fall into meditation, to ground yourself, which is this mudra. Right? Gyan mudra, and rest the right above the left. Just like that. So that the center of your palms are stacked on each other. Right? In Qigong, when you do your lower dantian breathing, you do that dantian breathing, right? It's always the two points together, right? If you don't know about this Qigong, then maybe we need to have Qigong classes soon. I was sharing with someone that a lot of our guys in this Sangha, don't worry, I will pause this, a lot of our guys in this Sangha are not exercising. So, okay, like that, right above the left. Just rest it and rest it on your thigh, on your lap, wherever. You go. So relax your shoulders. Sit in a comfortable posture. Maybelline, if you're lying down, you don't have to perform that mudra. Otherwise, you get uncomfortable. And if you're not seated on the ground, but you're sitting on a chair instead, then make sure you're barefoot and have the soles of your feet planted firmly onto the ground. Allow yourself to take about 5 to 10 deep breaths. Deep and full breaths to come back to the present moment and to release your muscles and joints. And drop your awareness to simply focus on breathing out, making sure you're breathing out completely. And at the end of the out-breath, you sit back and enjoy the in-breath. There's no need to breathe in any particular manner. Your focus is on breathing out. And when the in-breath happens, you reward yourself with the breath of fresh air. Breathing out the day, breathing out your thoughts. Now is the time to recenter and to come home to yourself. It is the time to take care of your mind. Breathing out in order to enjoy a breath of fresh air. Whatever residual energies of emotions that may be in you, allow them to be calmed by your breathing that is happening naturally to you. Know that this person sitting here, this consciousness, has the seeds of mindfulness and meditation, and can trust in the mind to settle down as you breathe on. There is no need to try to figure anything out or to make anything happen. This is your moment to reset, to restore, and to release. Simply get in touch with the rising and falling sensations of your breathing. You may even notice the coolness of the in-breath and the warmth of the out-breath. Feeling yourself naturally grounded and rooted into gravity. Connected to the earth and connected to the sky and universe while you're breathing and sitting or lying down. The night has come for all beings to rest. Although the world may be chaotic, but the meditative mind knows how to settle and how to fall into silence and stillness. This was what the Buddha and his monks and nuns did 2,500 years ago, seated or lying down, connecting with their breaths, letting go of the world, and allowing mindfulness to illuminate themselves. Feel yourself as a part of this continuation, and right here and right now, in the present moment, in the realm of meditation, the Sangha sits together with many, many other Sanghas. And may all of you be far from defilements and mental afflictions. May your light of mindfulness and compassion radiate throughout your consciousness. In this sacred moment, may we all reflect the 4 kinds of nutriments that we have been ingesting. The 4 nutriments of edible foods, sensory impressions, volition, and consciousness. Let us begin from the wholesome ones. Breathing with sincerity and kindness into yourself. What are the wholesome nutriments that you have been ingesting, that you have been allowing to be in your system? Breathe with gratitude and honesty and trust. Or in other words, how has your mindfulness brought you peace and awakening? How have you used your body and your mind in such a way that brings you peace and joy and happiness? Allow yourself to celebrate and be in touch with these moments of your practice. Rejoice in your own practice and your own merits of how you have cultivated peace and loving kindness. With openness and sincerity. So reflecting on how you may have caused suffering to yourself by allowing the wrong sensory impressions to come into you, by not guarding your mind, that when suffering happens, the situation becomes ugly. That the mind becomes stirred and unhappy. What kind of volition was there that has resulted the consciousness to act out of ignorance, greed, and aversion? What kind of mental stories were happening? What kind of mental stories were playing on repeat within the mind? Sometimes we can't prevent from what happens in front of our senses, but we inevitably allowed the volitions to come up. So what goes on between the world and your mind? What volition was there? What goes on between your mental experiences and your mind? That in between that volition, what was it that has caused suffering, that has distracted and uprooted you from peace, that has made the mind restless? Perhaps you can pick a recent event of suffering that is not too intense, or perhaps some kind of similar situations that keep occurring in your life. What volition was it that has come up unnoticed? So this is not a time to find fault with oneself, but to review one's practice with openness and a willingness to transform. How can you apply your mindfulness in future? How will you leverage on the good nutriments you've been ingesting to amplify and to transform the negative ones? Set your resolution and then you can let go. And dive back to embracing yourself or simply sitting in stillness and silence. Still recognizing that this is a sacred moment. Practitioners from around the world are meditating at this moment. And you are one of those practitioners. And if you can't let go, or you can't find any form of reconciliation, just notice the volition of wanting to solve things, the desire of getting things right. That is the cause of suffering. When you let go, you get peace. When you let go a lot, you get a lot of peace. And when you let go completely, you regain complete peace. Letting go of all right or wrong, good or bad. Letting go of the idea of how meditation should be or how the breath should be happening. In this center, recognize that you have the choice to respond with wisdom and clarity to all situations. In the illumination of the pure mind, there is power to take charge and to direct one's energy. Imagine what it is like, or how it could be like, if you can let go of certain volitions that have been causing you suffering. Or if you let go of certain habits, certain thoughts, certain viewpoints, certain desires. Other than peace of mind, what other things and opportunities would open up? If you can let go of the conflicting mind or the argumentative mind or the mind of suspicion and doubt, what can you move towards? What can you step into if you were to step out of this negative loop? When the mind steps aside from fear to recognize fear as it is, uncertainty becomes total freedom. We breathe together and we practice the Dharma. We are all practicing as one, with thankfulness to one another. Your practice supports my practice, and my practice supports your practice. This is the same practice of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and all their enlightened disciples. They have spilled over to future generations, and we have continued the same practice. We shall go on to benefit countless beings and generations to come. If you dwell in oneness, you will also discover that your practice has already spilled over to affect others in a positive manner. To acknowledge these is to acknowledge the power of enlightenment that you are practicing, the gift of the Dharma that you have received. May we all begin anew to live with mindfulness, to live with alertness, to safeguard our consciousness and our senses, so that our meditations can progress even faster, so that we can impact change in society. Send out your loving kindness throughout the galaxies. Share your merits with all your loved ones, those who came before us, and those who have not yet come. May they partake in this practice energy. And may this energy of merits bring them happiness in their minds, in their emotions, in their bodies and the physical world. And may it speed up the process towards full enlightenment. May the suffering of the world be overcome with mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion. Namo Sigato. The night has come to an end. And may you wake up and be in touch with your aspiration to continue in a beautiful and transformative way that will bring about countless and limitless benefits to yourself and others. May the Buddha guide us. Just sit and sit and sit. Be still and reject the wrong kind of nutriments that comes in. Rejection doesn't mean aversion. It means not clinging onto them, not touching them. Be like a lotus in full bloom, that even when water and dirt touches the lotus, they do not stay in the lotus. They roll off the petals and the leaves of the lotus, untainted, yet brilliantly alive and radiating. And when you're ready, now is the time to verbalize your reflection of this session and your aspiration for your practice moving forward. And to be aware that practice is the way of life. So what is your aspiration for your way of life moving forward? We open the circle. So let the aspiration come out of your mouth in a meditative manner. Just think of this space filled up with practitioners. And your expressions will be talking to the Buddha nature of everyone, including your own. This is the kind of meditation to practice that I personally practice in the evenings. Like I would say, like it's like the default kind of meditation of openness. Of course, you don't have to reflect on the nutriments one by one, but or to go through a similar guidance. If you think about what we started at, what we began with was establishing one's mindfulness and centeredness into the present moment, and then just allowing things to flow, allowing the mind to steal on its own without trying to put in any effort. So sometimes, of course, you can weave into the dreamlike state, right? But as you recognize those states more and more, then you can catch yourself in those states too, because there's also a fine line between falling asleep and in deep meditation. So when it's about to fall, then learn to recognize it so that you can mindfully adjust that brainwave to go up higher. Don't let it go to delta. Just let it go up a little higher. How to bring a little bit more alertness so that it can stabilize in that state. All right. So as we meditate deeper and deeper, sometimes there's nothing to figure out. I mean, there's always nothing to figure out, right? And that should be the intention. Whatever needs to surface has to surface on its own. So you just allow it yourself to see, right? But to see in a way, not to fix oneself, not to solve. It's not to solve a puzzle, but it is to be mindful of what is apparent, what comes up, what do you notice, and then wisdom can come out on its own. So meditation is also about non-attainment. In the Heart Sutra, it is stated that there is no attainment at all. There's no enlightenment for one to attain. So there's one thing that we can all reflect on. So yes, every evening, if you can, have this moment of sitting in with yourself, calming down the mind, allowing the mind to settle. Then what will be left will be residual feelings or emotions, if there are any, right? So if there are none, then just continue sing throughout. Enjoy the bliss. You deserved it. You've earned it. You live through the day. You've done so many things, and now it's time to just come back home to yourself. And give to yourself that bliss, that silence, and whatever needs to appear when the mind shifts to vipassana, it will come on its own. Or whatever residual feelings that might still be there, that you need to process a bit. What kind of nutriments was I feeding myself today that has caused this residual feeling to be around, that I need to resolve. When you go deep and deeper and deeper and deeper into your mind, and you start to see things clearly, you may realize that some things really don't require you to process them or to heal. It just requires you to recognize them as they arise and step away from it, to kind of reject them. I'm not saying reject your feelings. I'm saying reject that need to attach, right? Reject that attachment, and reject that need to fight, reject the need to escape. What mental formation was causing it. Is to say no to those mental formations only after you've seen it clearly. So the body gets in touch with sensory input, right? Then we have, it goes in the mind with a perception of things, mental formations come up, correct? So when mental formations come up, we're going to catch that mental formation. Now, what is that mental formation? It's not so much about the mental feelings anymore. No, whether I'm upset, angry, or I'm fearful, or I'm hurt, but it's that mental formation. What is that mental formation right there? Try to contemplate, catch that. Then you realize that these mental formations are pretty much the problem, causing all the problems and troubles. And you get to befriend it and say no. So not rejecting one's feelings or one's suffering, but catching that the technical aspect of it, of how it's wired to that thing. It's really technical. That's why you could really remove it. Hope you all understand. I guess you have some of these things you have to practice. You really have to just go and practice, and then you figure out what I'm trying to say.